And it's actually from the book of Esther in the Bible of all places. It talks about Mordecai, who was a leader in that time.
A leader is also a light in the darkness.
I think differently, and now I believe in myself because I'm around him, and I think even more is possible.
Welcome to Leading Lubbock, the podcast where we spotlight the voices shaping our city and beyond. Each week, we bring you inspiring stories and thought-provoking conversations with leaders who are making a difference in their communities. What makes this journey unique? Every guest is nominated by someone who's already been on the show, creating a chain of leadership that reflects the power of connection and community. Join us as we explore what it takes to lead with purpose and impact. This is Leading Lubbock. All right. Today we are kicking off episode number 11 of Leading Lubbock, and I've got a really good friend here with me today, Michael Hutton. Michael, thank you for coming on the show.
Definitely.
Excited to have you and excited to get more of a glimpse into your life because I think I have like a far away distant look at who you are, and even just in our snippet of conversation as we prep for this, I'm fascinated about your story and to get to hear it for the first time, and then also for listeners to be able to listen in as well and be encouraged. And I think there's going to be a lot of good things that come out of today. So I'm looking forward to it.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And just a brief about who you are. So Michael Hutton, many real estate agents here in Lubbock, Texas know who you are because of your position as president in 2024 of the Lubbock Association of Realtors. So one, thank you for serving. And
Definitely.
I'm a beneficiary of what you've done because I'm a real estate agent here in Lubbock. So I got to watch you lead, and it was a fun year. I mean, you're a fun guy. People are probably going to be able to pick up on that and throw in a dad joke if you need to.
Yeah,
I know you might not be able to help yourself, but also, so LAR president, past president for 24. And then also you are a broker owner of a real estate company. So we have many things in common.
Yes.
So West Sage Realtors. And I'm sure we're going to get to hear a little bit more about that as well. And then you were telling me a little bit about the Lions Club and kind of a whole process of different positions to become the Lions Club president back in 21 and 22.
Yes.
So leading through an interesting time, right pandemic, like bam, smack, get to
the heart of it.
The heart of it, yeah.
Really.
That's when it hit, yeah, for sure. So, man, you had a lot of opportunities to lead, and I think, man, there's going to be a lot of things, I'm sure, lessons that you learned, ways that you embody leadership that I'm really excited to get to hear about, because you also lead a family. It's not a small family either. So, wife Tammy.
Yes, Tammy, my wife. We met way back in like 96, 97.
Okay.
We're both students at seminary, Asbury Theological Seminary together. So that's where we first met.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. And then you have 4 kids.
Yes, 4 kids. So 23 is the oldest. That's Catherine. Okay. She currently works with me at the brokerage.
I did not know that.
She is our office manager. She keeps me focused, humble, all the good stuff.
That's awesome. Okay. You need that.
Yes.
We all do. I'm not saying you need that.
No, yeah,
we all do.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome.
I mean, we all have strengths and weaknesses, and certainly administration is not my strength. So she helps me out a lot and is doing a great job.
Okay.
And then Laura is our 21-year-old, and she is at Tyler Junior College right now. She's working towards her nursing degree.
Okay.
And then I have a newly turned 20-year-old Graham, and so he's our only boy. He's the third child, and so that's kind of like
only boy, right in the middle of the chaos.
Yeah, he's got 4 moms.
Yeah.
Their youngest is Heidi.
He's going to be so much better for it too.
Oh yeah, yeah. They've kept him straight, and
that's awesome.
And he's kind of has a silent strength about him. He's an oboist. He's at Tech. He's in the music program. He's working towards becoming a band director someday.
That is cool. Okay. You said oboist. I don't even know. I'm glad you clarified that with band because I don't know that term.
So he plays the oboe.
He plays the oboe. That's cool. And then your youngest.
Yeah, Heidi, I mentioned.
Heidi.
And she is a senior in high school at Monterey. here in Lubbock and is planning to go to Texas A&M next year. And
We won't hold that against her.
Yes.
We'll try not to.
since she was little, she's always wanted to be in forensic science because of the show Bones. Somehow
Really?
she watched the show Bones, you know, and we started watching it, and she fell in love with that.
Career
It was
fascination.
fascinated. Yeah, exactly.
Little fact about me is in college I did biology with a minor in chemistry.
Oh,
Here I am. Yeah. And one of the classes that I took was a forensic science class.
yes.
One of the most interesting and fun classes.
You loved it, huh?
I loved it. Yeah, there was hands-on. Like we went to the field. You know, they put out little props of like dead animals for us to come across, and we had to identify how long that had been dead based on, you know, we're getting the weeds here, but I mean, like bug life cycles and things, and like it's fascinating. So yeah, I can understand though why she would be in love with that and want to know more. So very
She's
cool.
excited, and that puts her in the ag department, so she is like the aggiest of the Aggies. She will be.
She will
next
be.
year.
She will be.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
Yeah, dealing with bugs, I can't. That's not my
It's
cup
a
of
different
tea.
world.
But she
Yeah.
is gonna have a blast. So,
That's
anyway,
awesome.
that's our crew. There's 6 of us. We call ourselves the Hut House. Our last name is Hutton, and her maiden name is Stonehouse. So we put that together.
Very
That's just our
cool.
nickname. Emails, that kind of thing.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, thanks for sharing about your family.
Definitely.
Because I know we're going to get into that. We're going to get into just how you lead, probably in business, and family is also going to come up. So it's always great to have a context around what home life looks like for you. So I'm excited to hear it. I also have 4 kids, so I mean we're just sharing lots in common here.
This is
I mean,
cool.
you're steps ahead, so I'm going to be able to get all the wisdom from you on. I'll call you up and say, "Hey, we're 13. What did you do when you were 13 years old?"
Oh, 13.
Yeah.
Beauty.
So, it's coming. It's coming. But let's hop into it because I'm excited to get into the leadership conversation, and I would love to know, like, what does effective leadership look like to you, and then really how did that evolve over time?
Yeah. Well, now when I think about leadership, I really think of someone who's genuine. They are. It's not only what they say they are, it's how they act, it's how they behave, it's how they treat others. It's a real genuine expression of themselves, not putting on airs, not trying to be the big cheese, the boss, the don, not trying to lay down the law or the rules, but someone who truly lives and expresses what they believe. And it, in their leadership roles, they may have to enforce certain things. There may be rules to follow or rules to help others to follow, those kind of things. That's not what I'm talking about. But it's more of the way that a leader treats those that he or she leads that makes the biggest difference to me. I remember when I was in high school, youth pastor made a really big impression on me. And the first thing that caught me was that he's really funny. He was a good-looking guy, like just real charismatic.
Sure.
And so just different things kind of caught my attention. Some of those things are shallow things that we all kind of just latch onto.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good-looking guy. He's got a nice haircut. And, I really appreciate hair. So.
Yeah,
but
so I see how you just tried to follow in his footsteps.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Until it came down to using Propecia or whatever, and then I was like, nah, I'm out. But anyway, he really was and is still one of those people I reach back to because of the way when he treated me and treated hundreds of other students during the time that I knew him, and I was under his mentorship and discipleship. He would come to the school and sit with us at lunch. He would take us to lunch. More than that, when he was talking to you, you had his full and undivided attention. And with hundreds of kids at youth group coming in and trying to grab his attention, he was just deadlocked on whoever he was talking to at that moment. And he was very intentional about that. And so he treated me with respect. He treated everyone with respect. And man, that really opened the door to me stepping into a world of faith.
Yeah.
So
Man, what and unfortunately, what a rare quality, right? Of
Yeah.
like the undivided attention. And unfortunately, I think this is where the reason maybe why we don't always give undivided attention is the back of my mind. We're thinking about us and what are we getting out of it, or how are we being perceived, or how are, it's a very self-focused thought process.
Mhm.
And I think what you're describing in him is this, I'm laying down everything, however it affects me, and I'm right here, and I'm pointed at you. This
Yes.
conversation's about you. It's not about me. And I know the differences internally when I'm having conversations. In the back of my mind, I'm thinking about, my next meeting or my last meeting, or the fire that could be going on, or how are you perceiving me right now? And I'm halfway into this conversation.
Right.
Versus
Oh.
being, all in because I'm focused on you. So that's kind of what I hear as you're talking, is this authenticity and this genuineness of like focusing on the other person.
Yes.
And not being directed at self.
Yes, and that was a very different experience for me. For the most part, adult, the adult world was so foreign. I was 17 years old, and I'd been involved with, I don't know, soccer teams, and had adult coaches. Even I was on the swim team in high school. I was went to church with my family and had adult interaction, but this was kind of a different one, different style, and it was. You really feel cared for, and especially as a high school student, you're in the middle of your insecurities, trying to move through that period in life, and I really felt like I was given a real blessing with his example, and so again, I reach back to his example quite a bit.
Yeah. So let's look back at 2024 then. You're the president of the Lubbock Association of Realtors. How do you take a lesson like that, and then how does it like practically show up in your leadership?
Well, that's a lot of years later, from 17 to 53. But it really, because what you see is what you get for the most part with me. What my wife experiences at home is very similar. I'm not going to say it's all the same, but very similar to what you're going to experience with me outside the house. And it's kind of a little, some of it's just the quirky, jokey side we talked about. Having fun, and sometimes I don't have maybe a filter that most people use when they're talking to a crowd, but at the same time, I use that to kind of direct kind of my heart and my passion. I want to share who I am with people, and part of that is the lighthearted side, and then there's the serious side, and sometimes people don't know which is which, but for the most part, I try to be just very open and genuine with I guess what my priorities are, and where I feel like I'm headed, and where we're headed together as an association this last year. Of course, I work a lot by consensus. So I'm listening to what other leaders are saying and telling me, trying to listen to what the association's saying and telling me, whether it's through words or just kind of the perceived direction. And so this year, one of the things that, and through our experience with our MLS system, where we lost it for a couple of weeks. And I won't give all the backstory, but it was basically taken ransom, and we were out of work for a couple of weeks, or at least out of the system. And so that kicked off, based on popular opinion and our own feelings as leadership, that we need to start looking at what else is out there for us as an MLS. What other technology, what other systems, what other companies could provide an MLS that was probably safer from that kind of being hacked.
Sure. And
also might be more advanced in how we deal with our clients and how we deal with the data, how we do our own research. And that took us through 24 and kind of a long journey we interviewed, and I think you were part of the MLS committee, interviewing almost every possible company that provides MLS services.
So you talk about the Lions Club
Yes,
and having
yeah.
led through 21 and 22. And then now I'm thinking of your leadership in the Lubbock Association of Realtors, where you led through one of the bigger crises that we had in a long time, I would say. Like, I don't remember a time where we've ever had something like a 2-week lockout of the system we need the most to operate as real estate agents. Like, that's our
Yes.
data. Those are our tools and our resources to sell homes at a high level. And we lost that for a few weeks. And that was hard. And you led through it. And then led through this transition that we're now about to jump into. Actually, by the time this goes live, we'll be in it. Like, it'll be there. We'll be navigating the new system that you helped at least pioneer in terms of, hey, we need to make a change for the organization. So one thing that I just want to applaud you on is you've led through some very difficult seasons, and I'm sure you've learned a lot in those difficult seasons of leadership. But I think you can look in presidencies, you can look, like, I'm talking national American presidents. You could also look at organizations of, sometimes there's easy years. You're just like very little change, just a great economy, great everything else. It just works out super smooth. And sometimes you're leading in the chaos.
Yeah.
And you're leading in the trial you did that. And I want to say, I just applaud you from, I didn't know you super well during your presidency, but knew you well enough. I mean, we interacted quite a bit.
Yeah, we did.
But you make everybody feel like they're your best friend, and you just have known them forever. And I think it's just the personal side that you're talking about. So I just want to applaud you. And it's not just lip service right now of like, this is what a leader should be, but you genuinely have those qualities and characteristics.
Oh, well, thank you.
Man, it's inspiring, because that's how I want to show up. I want people to know who I am, not, okay, it's time to start this meeting, so you're going to get meeting Ruben now. And I do think we adapt, but I also think there's a level of the authenticity that you embody that's just really encouraging.
Yeah, you do bring that to the table, just working with you on this endeavor right now. Thanks, and I appreciate that. And I do want to give a lot of credit to working with the LAR leadership team. Donna Sue Clements, she was actually president when it went down. I was with her.
Oh, that's right. That was 23.
23.
Right. And then you took over in the transition. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So, oh my goodness,
she handled it with grace.
That's right. Like, looking back on that, she really did. So thanks for clarifying that point.
Oh, yeah.
It's amazing how fast time flies. I was thinking that was last year, and now we were a year and a half, almost 2 years away from that.
Yeah, about 18-month endeavor to get us from, we called it the wrap out. Rapatoni.
That's right.
Was the system. So Rapatoni, wrap out, when it was down for 2 weeks, to the point of interviewing all these companies, sometimes twice or 3 times.
Yeah.
Having them come and speak to our multiple listing system committee. And then now here we are to implementation, and on 21st, we'll have our first kind of online trainings, and
it's go time.
It's gonna be great.
Yeah, that's awesome. Great. That's really awesome.
So it's interesting. Whether you have your kind of an easy day on your plate, let's say that's just in real estate.
Yeah,
and you've got your list of things to do, and it goes very smoothly. You go meet with so-and-so for a listing, and then you do some market analysis for your next client, and then you're taking some buyers out, and it goes really smoothly. Or you have a day where you have those things planned and they fall apart, and you get fired by one, and so somebody's mad at you because the house was shown and the doors were left open, and things seem to just blow up. I think it's your kind of where you are internally, and the discipline you've had in your life to that point that kind of keeps you centered and grounded. Whether things are blowing up in your face or not, you can still be the same person. And I think that's important. I think that's from a time when I was a teenager to now, that's the thing I've always wanted to have in my life, is that I can have that stability on my best days and on my worst days. And that's where the journey of faith for me has come in, is to take me there. And I'm not there perfectly. I'm a very emotional person, so I can go nuts and be crazy at times. But for the most part, I think the biggest test, and we'll talk about some of these as we go, but in October I lost my mom, and that's that's the hardest loss I've ever had.
Yeah.
So it hasn't been easy emotionally, but at the same time, it hasn't just rocked my world where I was incapacitated on the couch, or having to drink a bottle of gin to get over it, or anything.
Sure.
I've really felt like the Lord has had me in His hand during this whole process. So anyway, just wanted to kind of speak to that as the heart of a leader and the stability of a leader.
Yeah. So I hear kind of like this steady rock. It's kind of like what, and I know that we can only be as steady as what it is that we're hanging our faith on, or hanging, the discipline of keeping our eyes focused on something. And so as I hear you talk, I mean, faith seems, just in the little bit of time we've spoken, faith seems extremely important to you. And that's like the groundedness that then you can show up and be grounded in your leadership too. But it probably just doesn't come naturally. You use the word discipline. And I think it is a discipline over time. And has that evolved for you? Have you felt like even in your leadership, the stability, has that grown over time in leadership? What did that look like before?
Sure. Early on, as I graduated from college, I went into Christian leadership. I worked with a campus ministry here in Lubbock called the Wesley Foundation, Texas Tech. And one of the first books we read together as a leadership group, you have right here on your shelf, it's The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. And that really, that helped a lot. And also just the mentoring as a disciple to participate in spiritual disciplines such as solitude, silence, prayer, scripture reading, fasting, those kind of things to build up who I am in Christ and keep me in that place where the things of the external world matter, but they don't necessarily have to matter to the point that it takes me off my path, off track. There are always going to be distractions. There are going to be disappointments. There are going to be failures, but those are things that actually can catapult you forward because when those disciplines are in place.
Yeah. So one of the questions I like to ask, and this can kind of lead into that, is how do you embody leadership, and what kind of habits do you have in place that help you move forward and maybe even staying consistent in your leadership?
Sure. Well, and this question I kind of wrestled with a little bit, and because thankfully you gave me a little bit of a heads up, so I could think about it. And one of those is that, man, I really realize just how lazy I really am.
Interesting.
Probably supposed to talk about strengths, but I really want to lead with my weakness here, because in a lot of ways, I just love to be lazy. I love to sit on the couch and watch TV, and I love to eat junk food and and do all these lazy things, and those are kind of like in the complete opposite of really where I want to go. In the short term, I like these lazy habits, but in the long term, I don't like where they lead me, because I go nowhere. And so just thinking through that. So what I try to do is, and my wife will say, "Hey, you're not very good at this," but what I try to do is, with the things that I really like that aren't really good for me, I try to use those as treats. Like if it's junk food, okay, every once in a while, and then I do go through seasons where it's every night I like a bowl of ice cream at midnight, but
I'm with you.
But the whole path is that good nutrition is going to keep me where I want to go, and getting back to the gym is going to keep me where I want to go, and with my health and trying to have some decent longevity in life. But having a consistent time of solitude, I really believe, and I heard this quote, and it's kind of a pithy little quote that comes from the heart of John Wesley, who was one of the founders of the faith in the Methodist movement. That life without reflection is life without direction, and if you can't be silent, kind of sit, kind of reflect on your day or what your life is like, or where you're going, or are you meeting your priorities, or Are you eating too much junk food? Are you staying on the wagon when it comes to good nutrition? Those kind of things. When you can reflect on what you're doing, then you know where you're going, and you can adjust. But if you don't think about those deeper things, the deeper life, where is your heart and where are your priorities? If you don't think about those things, then just whatever comes up takes over and takes control. I've noticed that in my own life, and I try to avoid that because there are a lot of really shallow things that can get in the way.
Yeah.
Or can take my attention. All of a sudden I'm spending a lot of money on comic books or movies, or just shallow things when really I need to be investing in probably retirement or investing in my kids' education, or those bigger priorities.
That's so good. And I agree. I used to call it think time, and I do. I just don't do it as much as I used to. But the seasons where I'm really intentional about weekly blocking out even an hour a week to just be in the moment by myself, quiet, and think. An hour is a long time.
It is.
A minute of silence is a really long time.
Yeah.
Whenever you shut the world off. And so, man, the importance of that, though, the value that came out of that for me, even in like vision, vision for and direction for life came out of that. And that's what you're saying, like a life without, what was it? A life without
reflection.
Without reflection is a life without direction.
Right.
And I mean, so the opposite would be true. A life with, why am I blanking on this word here? The life with reflection would be a life with direction.
Right. I'm sorry. Yes, that's exactly it.
And really carving out that time, that is so valuable. And I just don't think people do it, and it's hard because you got to stop in a world where we are hustling and bustling. And I can't tell you how many conversations I've had this week with people, even my wife, that's just like, when do we find the time to stop? Like, I just feel like we're in a marathon that we haven't trained for. It just goes and goes. And so it is a discipline to stop and reflect, and then have that ability to know what's next and where we're going.
What really kind of convicts me is when I look at my phone and it gives you the amount of time you've been on the phone, screen time you've had.
Yeah.
And it says 8 hours and 36 minutes today. I go, oh, that's where all my time. No, a lot of that. I mean, we do a lot of work on our phones. We do, there's that. But then even if I spend an hour and I was scrolling social media or something, I mean, that's eating up valuable time. I could be writing thank you notes to people, or notes of encouragement, or to my kids. There's so many times I think I need to sit down and just write a note of advice from dad to my kids, and instead I've been scrolling Instagram or playing Words with Friends, or whatever. Distractions, those little things that kind of eat up our time.
Yeah, and they go unnoticed too. I think it becomes so habitual, and some of those things that we may not even realize how much time that we lost from whatever distraction that was.
Right.
Yeah, man, that's good. It's a good reminder for me. I do want to go back and see what it looks like to carve out the intentional think time, or the intentional just reflection time into the calendar, and just see what happens. Even if it was just like, this month I'm carving out this much time, and I want to see what happens by the end of that month. And I would encourage listeners, anybody that's listening into this, like, what moments do we have for reflection, or just turn it off, turn everything off for a second, and sit.
Exactly.
It'd be interesting to see. So.
And it kind of comes from the ancient Jewish tradition of Sabbath. If you talk about carving out time, and I don't even mean necessarily a certain day. It can be any day that works for you, in your life, in your schedule, that you carve it out or set it aside to think, to read. Is it scripture? Reading one of these awesome books about leadership, or putting good things into your life. Listening to a great podcast or whatever. Yeah. But having that Sabbath and once a week, and then maybe even take a retreat or something once every 6 months to just get away on your own and And that's the hard one for me to practice.
Yeah, I did that
away.
back last year.
Perfect.
I took a weekend away and I went to the mountains, and
Excellent.
I took a book that I wanted to go through. I took my Bible and I took a journal. Of course, clothes and stuff. But I found the smallest little Airbnb, this little tiny home in New Mexico, and I was just by myself for a weekend. And I tell you, one of the most impactful weekends I had with really no this is what I'm going to do hour by hour. It was just show up and I've got a few things and see where it goes. And it was impactful. I mean, I still reflect back on that moment and the things I took away from it. So that's awesome. And I do want to go back to you talked about you're lazy, you said those words about you. From an outsider perspective, I would never guess that. Never call you I suspect that he's a lazy dude. My mind has never gone there, and I don't think anybody around you in the professional world would think that. But I also want to hone in on that a little bit, because I think we all have the tendencies that are maybe we feel like are holding us back from our true potential. And it could be I do like to sleep. It could be I've got this really bad habit of, fill in the blank. And maybe that's the thing that almost holds us back from moving the ball forward. That's almost a defining moment of I can't do that because X, Y, or Z. And what I appreciate about what you just did is you acknowledged it. Mm-hmm. And maybe even that'll be my treat because I enjoy it so much. But there's this disciplinary side of, I also want to do this and I want to do it well. And this is how I'm going to do that. Because I think we're all human, and we have these tendencies to want to fill a need, and it just is self-seeking, self-serving, but at the same time, acknowledging, that's there. And I'm still going to move in this direction and come back and I'll treat myself with that. But I just want to relate to everybody on that moment.
That's good.
Because I think a lot of times leaders can just talk about the good things, and these are the good habits I have. But I think without acknowledging, we probably all have some tendencies that aren't always, what we want the world to know.
Right.
And so, thanks for that vulnerability in that.
Yeah. I mean, I think, and not to overstate it, I think like you say, we all have these tendencies. I mean, we have choices every day, and am I going to choose to be proactive maybe, or just kind of hang back? You know what? I think on Saturday mornings, it's a great time to hang back. Yeah. I like to make myself get up early, go to the gym, do those things. But then on Saturday morning, I want to take a little time to, I can't watch cartoons anymore. I guess you still can. Get up,
go for it.
We turn on the TV, whatever, and have a cup of coffee and enjoy the morning, and maybe with your spouse or on your own, having some time of reflection.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. Okay, well, I do want to hear about a little bit of your journey and maybe some pivotal moments that were part of your story that led you to this point of leadership, or maybe just life lessons you learned along the way, because I think maybe there's a story in there too that were pretty impactful for you.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I had was in Kentucky for seminary, and I always kind of had this vision of living somewhere after that had a rocky coast. I don't know why. I just kept getting that vision. It was, and
so you moved to Lubbock.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Yeah.
Rocky coast, mountains, trees.
Sure.
Yeah. It ended up being Maine. I moved to Portland, Maine, and the vision came, and then it materialized after I did some searching and worked in an after school program. It was basically like a youth group, but it was for at-risk kids in Maine. And so started there, and then got married in the process. We worked our way up, Tammy and I, to New Brunswick, which is just the next door neighbor to Maine. Okay. But it's in Canada. Okay. Yeah. Lived in New Brunswick, and then went into Nova Scotia. So that was kind of our adventure. That's a 6-year journey in a very short few sentences. While we were in Nova Scotia, we were there for 2 years. 1 year into it, we were church planting. We were starting a brand new church in Sydney, Nova Scotia. I get a phone call one morning. We had about 15 people in our church at that point, and we had just had our youngest, Heidi. We had her baptism that morning. I got a phone call from my dad that my sister had been shot and killed by her husband. So you imagine just the shift going from that time of rejoicing, baptism, to loss, like this unfathomable loss. You just go, oh my gosh. And my sister, like most siblings, we fought when we were kids, and we got along some. When we were real little, we got along well. We got older and teenagers, we were at each other. But of course, as we became adults, we actually grew closer together. So it was pretty impactful. We immediately packed up and went to Lubbock. Came back here to Lubbock from Nova Scotia that day. And it was about a 2-day journey, but we got here.
Yeah.
And she had 4 children, 4 boys. And her husband, who shot her, also shot himself. So it wasn't like the boys had anybody left. They were orphaned in that
day.
moment.
Yeah,
in that day.
Yeah.
And 2 that were at home were actually afraid they were next. Anyway, they went to live with my folks and here in Lubbock, and my parents had just turned 70 and 71, so they were in their retirement years. In my mind, they were going to probably go take some cruises, just take it easy, enjoy life.
Yep.
But they didn't. They decided to take up the gauntlet of raising those 4 kids.
How old were they?
The youngest was 3.
Oh, wow.
The oldest was 12.
They were starting over.
Yeah.
At 71.
Yeah, exactly.
Man.
Brand new family at 70 and 71.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, man. That's a tough journey to go down. Like I'm sure you wouldn't wish that on your worst enemy.
No,
to have to go through something like that. And
the reason I tell you that is just because it was a life-shifting experience. And a year after that happened, we packed up our entire family, kind of like the Beverly Hillbillies, and headed to Lubbock. I mean, everything we owned, we sold a lot of stuff, packed up a lot of stuff, handed the church over to another couple to lead, and came back to Lubbock so that we could be closer.
Okay.
To support my parents, or even if we needed to raise some of the kids, whatever it looked like at that point. We had no idea. We knew we had 4 kids, and adding more to that would be chaos, but whatever it took, whatever we needed to do. So
how long ago was this?
This was we moved back here in 2008.
Okay. So I'm just thinking through timeline, because you talked about like this consistency that you've grown over time, and like the discipline of remaining stable and in your leadership, because you're leading your family now, and you're leading nephews, nieces, right, through a journey that they're on. Even your parents, I'm sure there's an aspect that you're helping and you're leading them to. Like, we're all dependent in those stages. We're all leading each other.
We're helping each other. Exactly.
Yeah. And so I'm sure that was a trying time, I would imagine, when it comes to stability in leading in whatever realm of life you're in, when that much has taken place around you. Where were you at in that journey of evolving as, like, just in your stability and your consistency as a leader?
Well, you can't ignore reality. I mean, there are things, if you get hit by your soldier gets hit by a mortar shell, they're injured. You can't ignore those type of things. And the emotional injury was there, for all of us. And so when we moved back to Lubbock, I really had the sense I wasn't supposed to really be back in a full-time ministry position. I just needed to come back and evaluate, rebuild our family, and being back here in Lubbock now. And I was from Lubbock, but Tammy wasn't. The kids were all born either in Maine or in Canada. So it was all new to them. And so trying to just give stability to them. And so for a year's time, I actually, Tammy found a job at First Christian Church here in Lubbock. And I didn't know what I was going to do. I worked part-time at a church, so part-time at Mount Vernon United Methodist Church. Filled the pulpit, and worked with the families there for about a year and a half, and then at the end of 2009 or in the middle really, I started to listen to some different books on leadership. I listened to Rich Dad Poor Dad. And I actually see this other one, Think and Grow Rich.
Yeah.
And some of these books that were very helpful at the time, and I started to get the idea that real estate might be an interesting direction.
2009. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was an interesting time to think about real estate. Nothing going on then.
Yeah. It definitely in the middle of a recession, and how the prime subprime lending debacle.
You just picked some hard times to walk into leadership.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just or walk into new transition of life. Like, when is the worst possible entry? All right, I'll go for it now. No,
well, and the one thing I would say about that, my mantra then was, you can choose to focus on the negative, or you can choose to focus on the positive, and either way, you're going to be right.
Yeah,
so
you'll find it.
The choice for me is if I focus on the positive and then behave accordingly, I feel like that I always get better results.
Yeah.
So that's exactly what I was doing at that point. And through those things, I met with John Walton, and John was the broker at Century 21, John Walton Realtors. Mm-hmm. And he had been a lifelong friend. My mom had worked with him through and through, worked for Century 21, John Walton Realtors as their bookkeeper for 40 years.
Wow.
And so that was my introduction to John at a young age. And so I went back to him, looking to him for some help and direction.
Awesome.
And so I sat down with John, and he also was a like spirit, very positive minded, thought about positive things, really cared about people. He was very genuine. He just clicked and connected if you hear the theme there. And man, I was just very attracted to work with him and under him, and he and his son Wayne. Wayne Walton was a great mentor and worked with me as well to learn the business and what it's about. His favorite thing to say was, "You're not selling the steak, you're selling the sizzle."
Oh, that's cool. I love that.
He's got a lot of good sayings.
Oh,
like that.
Yeah, those are the ones you need to tuck away. And, yeah, those are good one-liners.
Yeah,
Man,
exactly.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, man, I know I've affirmed you in a lot of things, and I want it. I'm genuinely just admiring you right now, because the theme that I'm hearing over and over again is just this leading through adversity, and just living really through adversity and doing it well and focusing on the positives and really doing that out of a way where you're just not trying to muster it, but you're really like believing it. You're focusing on the positive so much that that's who you've become, even in the midst of hardship, like focusing on the good despite life is hard. And you're never going to take the hard out of life. Right. Like, it will be there. And by 2:00 this afternoon, an hour and a half, I'm probably going to hit some things. You're going to hit some things. But really remaining true to focusing on those positive attributes is huge. So great job on doing that.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah.
Are there any lessons you feel like that you learned that you wish you would have learned early on in your life, maybe a tad bit earlier?
And this is one of those things when you're dealing with a leadership team, and we've got a great leadership team at LAR. And most of the people on leadership team, they always talk about they like to eat the frog first. They like to do the hard thing first. I'm just the opposite. As a matter of fact, I want to run away from the hard thing as often as I can when it comes to like sitting down the day and I've got this list of things to do. Oh, that one's hard. Let's put that at the end. Let's avoid that one.
Yeah.
That phone call, I don't want to talk to that person. So I wish I had learned that lesson. And it's funny because we talk about, being stable in adversity and having bad things happen to you, but I guess it's more about proactivity. I wish I had learned to be more proactive on those things that are just uncomfortable.
Yeah. You feel a lot better on the flip side, like the other side of it.
Oh, you do, yeah.
That's done, and I think it even helps with the next hard thing is not as hard, because you already ate the frog, you already did the big one. But man, I'm with you. I like comfort. If there's anything about me, like I want to be as comfortable as possible in those hard conversations, any conflict, any like I don't like to ruffle feathers. So there's a saying that, are you familiar with the strength finder? And you got like your top 5 strengths. Well, my number 1 is harmony. and I was reading a description about it, and it was like, we're all on a boat heading in the direction. It's a good boat. No need to rock the boat. No need to it's a good boat, and we're all on the boat. Let's keep it going in a smooth straight line. Little to no conflict, you know. So I agree with you, and also know the value of just doing it head on and take care of it. Just get it over with, and things will get better after that. Yeah,
it was funny. I was talking about this leadership team, and we were having a discussion about doing the hard thing first, and everyone in the room was, yes, that's how I like to do things, and I'm like, I hate that.
Yeah. Can we be real?
But, yeah. Anyway, but that's definitely a learning edge over my adult life, especially the last 10 years of it. I've been actually in the real estate industry or profession now since 2009, so we're getting on to 16 years, and that's pushed me, because when you've got to deal with the hard stuff for your clients. You do. And you can't put it off.
And it's not an easy industry either. Like they're very seldom the deals go through with no conflict. So
exactly.
Yeah, you get lots of practice. All right. Well, I want to jump into this because this is
definitely.
When I asked you about the book, you presented the biggest book I think I've ever seen. So
I forgot it was that big.
It's massive. This gives you plenty of reading material for years to come.
They're big words, though, right?
They are. Yeah.
The letters
actually,
letters
are larger. So I appreciate that. Yeah. But this book that you suggested is an autobiography, and it's called Just As I Am by Billy Graham. So I'd love for you to talk a little bit about the book, why you chose it, what was the impact for you that this book had.
I read this as a post-seminarian going into ministry as a profession. I was going into full-time vocational ministry, and I was really looking for examples of those who were in ministry that I felt were positive, that genuine. They actually lived their lives and worked the ministry in a biblical fashion, a fashion genuine to the Lord, and so this is one that I ran into. There were others, but this is one of the most impactful, maybe even the first that it is a big fat book, but I read through this and soaked up so much from it. The reason being, Billy Graham was not a person of influence necessarily. As a young man, he grew up in poverty in North Carolina. He wasn't handed a silver spoon or come from even the middle class. And so that impact is impactful for me as well. That reflects a lot of the life of Jesus and got my attention. And I was reading further, his faithfulness to his lifelong walk with Christ really expanded options and growth. And his ministry grew from a small church to larger venues where he was preaching the truth to people and inviting people to have a relationship with God, and to the point he got to football stadiums and even bigger than that. And it was only because he remained true to himself that those things happened. If he had started taking the credit, which there's really not a hint of testimony from himself or from anyone else. If you've heard of Billy Graham, people realize that he's the same humble young man as he was the same young man being humble as he was when he grew up. He grew up as a humble leader to the point where presidents, world leaders started to request his counsel and wanted him to be by their side and praying for them when they were making tough decisions. Yeah. And I really didn't get a hint that he was taking the credit for himself. Well, I'm such a great guy. I'm so smart. I'm so blessed with the ability to speak. It never came across that way. And that again that's the type of leader that I resonate with.
Yeah.
Let's give the credit where credit's due and just do our job.
Yeah.
And in humility. So
Yeah.
that's kind of the storyline that really drew me through. And there are a lot of details in this that just will blow you away.
That's awesome. Okay, so really just he embodied what you aspire to as a leader as well. Like you're just seeing characteristics of his leadership, his life,
Yes.
that are impactful, that are things that you want to mirror.
And probably details on how he did life that gave me direction that I didn't have. I didn't have that. Oh, well, I'd like to emulate that in some way, or it gave me it put some meat on the bones, we'll say, so that I could step up from where I was at that point in life.
No, that's awesome. Okay, well, the great thing about this is that you get to write a little note in it, and then we're going to give it away to a follower on our Instagram page. And so somebody else is going to get the opportunity to dive into this book and hopefully be impacted in the same way that you were. I kind of wish my name was in the hat, so I'd just get to keep it. But I'll order me a copy as well, because I think it sounds like an amazing book and a lot of admiration for him. So that's incredible.
It's like second Christmas or something. I mean, I'm really excited someone's going to get to have this, and I hope that when you do, it really strengthens your life.
Yeah.
There were a couple of quotes, and I just pulled these out because I hadn't read this in a while. So I'm like, I need to look up a few quotes from this book. But a couple of things that he said. One thing about faith that Billy Graham said was, "My faith has been tested many times, but God has always been faithful." And I resonate with that. That's like, yes, you're not alone when things are hard. You're not alone when things seem hopeless. And one other thing he says about hope is, I've read the last page of the Bible, and it's all going to turn out all right.
Oh, that's cool.
So,
I know the end of the story. Oh, that's cool.
So I just wanted to share those with you.
Thank you for sharing. I love the quote I love both of those, but the quote about the faith, my faith has been tested, but God has remained faithful. He's not saying, but my faith carried me through, or, my faith failed me. It's like this, like reaching up, and it's like, it's not my faithfulness, but his right. that did it. And I'm just holding on to, like, I have this image of like what do you call the lifesavers, that you throw out the rings from a boat, and just like, I'm just hanging on, right? And he's the one doing it, and he's faithful to bring me in the boat, to carry me along. So that's so good, man. Thank you. Well,
definitely.
I think we could keep talking all day.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying this.
I was waiting for lunch to come in.
Yeah, no, I'm like, we don't have anywhere to be, right? But I want to conclude with my favorite question, which is, if you could define leadership in a single sentence, what would that be? And I know it's not easy, but I know there's some themes, and I'm really curious what the answer to this question is for you.
Yeah, that was a difficult one. I gave it some thought. I did give it some thought. I'm still thinking about it, but leadership to me is serving really as you are. You aspire to get better, you aspire to grow, and that's a good thing. But start right where you are, and with who you are, and all of those components are. I'm sorry, I'm going way off from more than a sentence, but anyway.
I heard it. So you mean I don't have to take all the classes and read all the books, and I don't have to listen to all the podcasts? Like, I could just start leading where I'm at.
You can.
And I love that.
And you'll grow from there.
No, that's so good. And I think we can all relate to it. I think sometimes we wait till the right things and the right timing and the right, all the dominoes have to line up and the stars have to align. And then I'll get into the leadership, or I'll get into, but I just love that we're all in a space we could lead at any point. And just exactly. Be where your feet are, lead where you are, and that's great, man.
Cool.
I thoroughly enjoyed today. I think there's just so many good things that came out of it. I'm excited for people to get to listen and hopefully even meet you through this or connect with you through this, because I think there's a lot more, there's a lot more underneath that we didn't have the time to get to, but I hope people got a glimpse of it today. But I see genuine leadership written all over you. So everything you said, know that's who you are.
Well,
Thanks for
you.
sharing a piece of it with us.
Thanks for inviting me to do this. This is really special, and I was excited when you reached out to me and was kind of anxious. It's kind of like I don't know, like it's a special time.
Well, that means a lot. Hey, thank you. Well, thanks for being on today, and looking forward to just watching you lead from here.
Thanks.
Yeah, you bet.
Appreciate it, Ruben.
Thank you.